YouTube, welcome to Jackie's Learning Corner. Today I'm going to do another review of the episode of some Are You for the Dark episodes. Now, I just realized that I did the Tale of the Whispering Walls already a couple years ago. So the last video, so I apologize in the last video for telling my review and my thoughts on that episode again. I don't know, that one was probably, the one I did years ago is probably better than the one I did this time. Because, I just am getting back into the rhythm of these and watching episodes Are You Afraid of the Dark? So, because I watch them every October. So there's like a year in between. So it's probably, that original one was probably better. So, but anyway, I tried to make sure that the two I'm going to talk about now, I'm not done yet. And I didn't see it, so I don't think I have. But, so first I'm going to talk about the tale of the shiny red bicycle, which is not as scary per se. I mean, it's a little creepy, but not in a, like, terrifying way that, terrifying way. More like, it's almost tragic. Which it is a ghost story, and a lot of the ghost stories I feel like are tragic. In fact, if you think about it, a lot of horror, besides the initial adrenaline rush, are being scared to death, and the monsters being chased, and watching characters you don't like getting killed, and all that kind of stuff, all that good stuff that horror has. It also, it's also kind of horror can also be very tragic. Like, people unexpectedly dying, or like the tragedy of, the ghost, which I guess also goes back to people unexpectedly dying and really it's all about that, like unexpected deaths that are really painful and gruesome, and the horror of that person coming back from the dead as a ghost or a zombie or something. Or, like, losing yourself to a monster, like a vampire or something. Which I know vampires are cool, and they're fast, they're immortal, they're sexy and everything. And they're scary, and that's so cool. But at the same time, you're being taken over by a demon. You're not you anymore. And, so it's, like, if you just think about it, but I'm sure you guys probably don't want to think about it, just want to enjoy horror, and it's just something I occasionally think about when I think about horror. And a lot of the ghost stories on Are You for the Dark do have a lot of tragedies. They're about lost love and people dying when they're young, and it's out of their control, and it's like, it's unfair. But anyway, so the story, we begin with first the story is told by David, and just like the tale of the hatching, this one is prompted by something that happened in David's life. He had his bicycle stolen, which, I don't know, maybe this is because I don't ride, I've never ridden a bike, like, I don't know how I tried, and my coordination isn't great, so I can't ride a bike. So maybe it doesn't mean as much, but I'm just kind of rolling my eyes at the whole, like, it's a part of, how can someone steal a bike? It's a part of you and all that. I mean, not the stealing the bike, that's messed up, that's wrong. It's that person's property, and a lot of kids grow up riding, and I guess because a lot of kids grow up riding bikes, so bikes are very important, especially back in, like, the 90s and before that. I mean, I think maybe not so much today's kids. Although I'm sure my nephews and my niece will see the value of, I'm sure my sister and brother will make sure they see the value in the specialness of having your own bike and being able to ride a bike. But, I think a lot of kids, don't, maybe I'm wrong here, but a lot of kids, I feel like they don't appreciate being able to ride a bike all around your neighborhood, and, that thrill and importance of that. But for me, I don't know how to ride it, but I still kind of find it a little silly when they're being all dramatic about it. It's like, it's a part of David, and someone stole, like, yeah, I mean, they stole his property, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, don't be dramatic. Like, it's just his bike, and he can always buy a new one. I mean, it won't be cheap, but he could still do it. But anyway, so it does prompt an inspiration for a story, and he calls this The Tale of the Shining Red Bicycle. So we start where we don't realize it until the end of the scene, but we start with a flashback of these two friends, Mike and Ricky, riding their bikes. They're crossing to this bridge where it's under one of those water drainage systems, pipeline or something, and they've stopped and they're joking around and stuff, and Ricky slips in the rusty fencing that surrounding the bridge breaks, and he falls into the rushing pipeline water, and Mike can't catch him. And he's like, and so they have the whole effects of a dream and everything, and we wake up and he finds it's a dream and everything, and it's years later. He's probably like 18 or something, and when that happened, they were probably like 13 at the time. And so he's lived with that guilt of that he did not save his friend for years, and still has nightmares about it. And his parents are concerned that, he hasn't let this go, and he continuously blames himself. And that day, he starts seeing some strange things. He sees his best friend Ricky's old bicycle, all rusty and just sitting there at his school, and he sees Ricky everywhere he goes, and he starts to panic, like. He ends up falling asleep in class because of the dreams he had, and he ends up going to the nurse, and after he tells the nurse what has been going on and how this has upset him, he has another hallucination where he sees Ricky again and starts to freak out. So, of course, the nurse suggests he goes home and rest. And his dad is really concerned, giving him a hard time about it, which part of me kind of feels bad and is like, just humor him. Like, or maybe talk to him about it and be like, instead of being all like, you're losing it, son, and you need to, like, just get home and rest. Instead of just dismissing it and saying, oh, sleep will cure you or whatever, just talk to him and, like his dad's not a therapist, but he can still talk to him about it, or maybe send him to a therapist. I don't know. Just talk to him, find out what makes you think you're seeing Ricky or something, or assure him, or try to reason, which, I mean, granted, the parents do try to do that. They're like, you don't need to blame yourself for this. Or ask him, or tell him that, ask him, what could you have done to save him? How could you have saved him? Like, just ask him, see if he'll come up with an answer, and he might come up with the answer and say, oh, I could have done something, I could have just grabbed onto him or something. Like, get him to talk about it at least, instead of being like, you need to just get home and rest, you need to move on and forget about this, because it's not your fault. It's like, no, you can't just tell someone it's not your fault, because you have to actually talk to them and really show them that it's not. So this is a very therapeutic episode, I think. Like, I think if you're someone who is dealing, I think a lot of people could probably relate to Mike and his situation and, blaming himself for the death of a person. Especially someone close to you, if you happen to be there and could, and you feel like you could have saved that person or something. I think that this episode would be, not just therapeutic, but there's another word I'm trying to think of. Like, I can't remember the word, but it could help. It could help you deal with that. So he goes home, and you see clearly that him and his brother, he has a younger brother, Ben. They have a really good relationship. They're very close and tease each other and, make jokes and stuff. And he really is worried about Mike. And, does that thing that we younger siblings do, which is talk to our parents, tell our parents our concerns, or trying to do what we can to help. Which, yeah, that's definitely what I would have done in Ben's place. I would have tried to be there for my older sibling or maybe express my fears to my parents about it, and that's what he does. So it turns out that now the family goes to this river to go fishing. The brothers will go to this river, go fishing every year, and Mike of course can't go because he's been put on bed rest. And Ben's, still very worried. He doesn't want to go. He wants to make sure his brother's okay. He's not sure if he wants to go, but the dad convinces him. And he ends up, meeting up with his friends and all that. Which, by the way, there's a moment with his friends that really, annoy me. They were standing by this rushing river, preparing to go fishing and everything. And Ben accidentally kicks the other kid's, I want to say it was his drink. Which, again, he's thirsty. The other kid needed a drink. He was thirsty, and, he lost his only drink. And Ben accidentally kicks because he's just walking on slippery rocks. On very slippery rocks. And he does say he's sorry. And his tone is genuine. And, again, I repeat, these rocks were slippery. It can happen. It's an accident. But the little shit that is his friend was he ends up kicking his, I can't remember what they're called, the thing that you put in the water, the bobbing thing, the thing that bobs, that you put in the water that has the hook on it, because they have those plastic ones. Although I think they should use worms. I think that'd be smarter to use worms. But maybe they do put worms on it, because I don't know how they could get fish if the hook is exposed. But maybe they do put, I don't know, maybe the bob in the water looks like something that they would want to grab, a fish would want to grab, I don't know, but anyway. So, his shit friend is kicks his fishing thing the thing he puts in the water, kicks it, it's oh, my bad, it was an accident. And I'm just shut up, kid. Your friend genuinely accidentally, I'm sorry, I get having dry mouth and being really thirsty and everything, and then your friend actually kicks it, and so you don't have any drink, I get that. But you don't need to pitch a hissy fit and kick his thing on purpose, mind you, just to get him back. It's that is so petty and stupid. Of course, the kids are probably 12 years old, so whatever, but that moment just kind of annoyed me, the little punk. It's Ben genuinely accidentally, the rocks were slippery, it was easy for him to accidentally kick your drink over. You don't need to be all petty and stupid and just be kick his thing on purpose just to get him back. That's stupid and immature. But then, like I said, they're 12-year-old boys, so, and I'm, a 30-something woman, and as if even at their age, I wouldn't, as a girl, I don't see girls doing stuff like that, but anyway. Back at the house, Mike once again sees the ghost of Ricky, and he's fed up. He's tired of seeing this ghost, and wants to know if Ricky wants revenge on him, wants to get him back. He is very frustrated, and he's finally heads downstairs, and I was what do you want, Ricky? Why can't you leave me alone? I'm sorry, what do you want me to, apologize and everything? And Ricky just is what's up, Ben? Mike, I don't blame you for what happened. And he's why are you wanting me then if you don't blame me? And he's I have to talk to you, and your brother is in trouble. And that, of course, gets Ricky's attention, or not, it gets Mike's attention. And so you find out that Ben is trying to get his fishing thing. Like I said, I don't know what that thing is called, the little bobby thing that you put in the water to catch the fish. He's trying to get his hook or whatever, because it's been caught between some rocks, because that little shit friend has kicked it on purpose, just to get him back for genuinely accidentally knocking his drink down. So he has to get it, and Ben slips and get caught in the rocks, and he's right near the rushing water, and if he slips, even if he gets his foot out, and if he slips, he could fall in the water and hit his head and all that. So Mike taking his bike, I don't know, he might have taken I don't know if I think it was his own bike, takes his bike and rushes to rescue his brother. And at the end, and he does save him. But at the end of the episode, a rusty old bike that's all moldy looking and rusted over and kind of pops out of the water. It turns out it's the bike is Ricky's bike, and it is never seen again, and neither is the ghost of Ricky. So, like I said, this is a very not I mean, it's a little scary because the idea of it does seem scary at first because the idea of him seeing the ghost of his friend and is a little creepy and all that, but it's also, like I said, it's a very sad and very sweet episode. It allows for Mike to forgive himself, and which it is weird though that I mean, when you die, does Ricky know what's gonna happen? I don't get how, I'm curious how that works. I mean, I guess it's no point in trying to figure it out, but it is weird that he haunts Mike this whole time before him and his brother's trip to the river or whatever. And it's not until then that what happens where the kid gets his foot stuck and his brother almost dies, like what happened to Ricky. And yet Ricky was haunting him before that. So I'm curious, is that a ghost? Is he psychic? Does he know what's gonna happen in the future? Does he know that Ben is gonna that is what's gonna happen to Ben? That he's gonna almost die, Or maybe he was just wanting to keep an eye on Ricky or maybe Ricky was trying to keep an eye on Mike because he knew Mike blamed himself and felt guilty. So maybe he was trying to, keep an eye on it. And then the whole thing with his brother Ben happened, and so he's like, "Oh, I should warn Mike that his brother's in danger." That's what makes the most sense to me. That maybe, Ricky was haunting Mike because he's worried about Mike blaming himself, and then he finds out about Ben and then warns him. I don't know. I mean, usually, although people only, a lot of times, sometimes ghosts will haunt you because they're warning you about something. Or they're telling you, you should do this. But I don't know. So anyway, that was it's not an all-time favorite because I prefer the more creepy, scary episodes. Although, like I said, this one it seems a little scary at first. But it's still a very there's a sweetness to this episode, and watching it again, I definitely have a soft spot for it because, like I said, it's a very sweet story, and it also is one that makes you feel, gives you comfort and makes you feel like, helps you deal with if you have experienced someone you love dying and having to cope with that, and if you feel guilty and feel because you were there, it can help you deal with that, and if you feel guilty about that death, the loss of that person. Okay, so the next one is a little more scary. It involves a traditional haunted woods scenario. So this is the first episode of Samantha's first episode. So she is, aka Sam. She is Benny Ann's friend. She's also the girl that Frank and Gary both have a crush on. And often her stories are very similar to Kristen's, where there's a romanticism to her stories. And they're often focused on female main characters. But she, so this is Sam's initiation episode. So we start with these, she starts by telling about this famous Camp Grindlestone, and you have, this is the first main character, Sarah. This is the first time she's been to Camp Grindlestone. She's very much an overachiever. She's very excited to learn things. She's she's a bit of an academic. And then you have Kelly, who she's actually played by what is her name? I cannot remember her name. The actress from Firefly, and she played Kaylee in Firefly / The Serenity. She is also later on the episode The Unfinished Painting, and I cannot remember her name. She's a very famous Canadian actress, but is done, more like B work, I think. Like, not, unless we're a fan to begin with. Like, she's not one of those actresses, like, sadly, not one of those A-list actresses. But anyway, but she's very known by certain groups of people. And she, like I said, she plays Kelly. Kelly is, she doesn't want to be here at Camp Grindlestone. She goes there her parents send her every year. She hates it. She'd rather be at home hanging out with her friends. She smokes. Just all around has a bad attitude, and is very sarcastic. And it turns out that her and Sarah are sharing a tent or cabin or whatever. I don't know if I think they said tent. I'm surprised they want to give them cabins, but anyway, and she and her friends and she kind of makes fun of Sarah for her overachievingness, and kind of mocks her in her attitude about being here at Camp Grindlestone, her excitement and everything. And one night, she and the girls that Kelly hangs out with tell Sarah, who mentioned Watchers Woods, and tell Sarah all about Watchers Woods. And this is a place where, as they put it, people go blip, as in they disappear and are never seen again. And there were these 3 campers from the 1920s, I think it was, that they blipped. They disappeared. They never were found again. And they also, they talk about how the woods will constantly move, so no one can ever find it. And they talk about the reason why they call it Watcher's Woods is because there's a mysterious figure known as the Watcher who is always there, lurking in the shadows, keeping an eye on you, or as they say, watching you. And Sarah is very curious about it. She finds it a very entertaining little story. And so the next day, there is a big hike that is happening with the campers. They have to pair up and find items around nature and all that, out in nature and everything, and get back before it gets too dark, so they don't have to start any fires. And Kelly is assigned to Sarah because Kelly knows the woods very well. She's an expert because she goes to Grindlestone every year. And Sarah, of course, is excited about this. She can't wait. And Kelly decides to trick Sarah and ditch her. But what ends up happening is both her and Sarah, when they separate, they get lost. And neither one of them can find their way, and both of them panic. And Kelly stumbles upon this I can't think of what it's called, an area, a little campsite that has been abandoned, and thinking that, oh, maybe there are people here, or maybe I can find some items that I can steal, and, to get me safely, to help me survive in the woods or get home safely. Well, it's not such an empty campsite, because these 3 kooky old ladies show up. And they capture Kelly. And they assume, and she realizes that these are the 3 ghostly campers that got lost in the woods years in the 20s and were never seen again. And they are wanting to punish the girl that left them abandoned and left them there and stole the girl that stole their whistles. And they think that's Kelly. So they hold her captive. Leave her in a cage with a bunch of mice. Or rats. Because she has a fear of rats. Of mice. And meanwhile, Sarah is still wandering around trying to find her way. And she ends up crossing paths with the mysterious Watcher. He catches her. And she freaks out and runs away from him and finds herself at the campsite and finds Kelly captured. And of course, Kelly had tried to get her out of the situation by telling them that she can bring back their whistles if she lets them go, if they let her go. But of course, they do not believe Kelly. And once again, held her captive and threatened her life. And then Sarah, being the smart, considerate one, is like, oh, I know where your whistle, telling these women, I know where your whistles are. And they feel like, and I guess they feel like she has a more honest face than Kelly, because they're like, all right, we'll give you a chance. If you don't come back within the time, if you don't come back with our whistles, you and your friend are dead. So Sarah runs back out of the woods to find her way to the campsite to get the whistles. And once again crosses. And she is able to make it back to the campgrounds and finds the whistles. But as she's traveling back to the campsite where these women were, where these ghostly women were, who are basically having fun torturing Kelly and taunting her, trying to figure out how they're going to cook her, because they're, in case the girl Sarah doesn't come back. And so Sarah runs into the Watcher, shows up again, trying to taunt her and lure her in, and she's like, takes out her lighter and is like, if you try and you come near me, I will set your precious woods on fire. And he's hoping that she's bluffing, but of course she's like, try me, and threatens and is like, so he backs off, lets her go, and she makes it just in time, and she comes running in. Unfortunately, slips, is only able to, in one of the whistles, lands in the bucket of mice. And the other two was the women, the old ladies catch the other two whistles, thinking that Sarah tricked them, and they put her on a chopping block, forcing Kelly having to reach in there to get them, to get the other whistle. And they, of course, think that she's lying when she says, I have it right here. So she is forced to stick her hand with the cute little mice in the bucket full of cute little mice. Which, okay, yeah, that would be a little bit unsettling, because what if these mice have rabies or something? But I kind of thought they were little cute little white little balls of fur. But anyway, so she reaches in just the last minute, blows the whistle, and gives it to the women, and gives it to the other girls. And the ghostly women, they are set free. And they leave a trail marker for Sarah and Kelly to get back, to find their way back. And Sarah and Kelly become friends, I'm assuming, after that experience. So this was a little more creepy of an episode. This was really a more fun episode because, it takes place in the traditional setting of a campground with the woods and the idea of getting lost in the woods. And I feel like they had a missed opportunity with the Watcher. They could have done more with the Watcher. I mean, he was still creepy, but I like how his face was embedded into the tree, and you could see his face in puddles of water from previous rainstorms and stuff, or rivers and all that. And but I feel like because the episode was titled Watcher's Woods, which the woods was called Watcher's Woods, but still, I wish they had done a little bit more with the Watcher, made him a little more scary and more threatening. The ghostly women were fun. They were really kooky, and you could tell they took such pleasure in torturing Kelly and trying to punish her because she represented the girls that she was just like all those girls that stole their whistles. I think that's why they Kelly, even if Kelly wasn't the same person, she probably reminded them of the girl that stole their whistles because she does act. She's kind of a bully and a bit of a brat. And, I liked that they foreshadowed in the beginning of the episode the whole I didn't mention this in my review, but they foreshadowed in the beginning of the episode when this little rat scurries along in the cabin in the building where the girls hang out. And she's like, I hate rats. And she freaks out. And Sarah's like, oh, it's just a little rat. And so they kind of, that was good writing that they foreshadowed that so that it would come up later. It would make sense later when they put that bucket full of mice in her cage. So she would have to reach in and grab the whistle. So I like the old ladies. I mean, I guess they had to call it Watchers Woods because, I mean, they weren't going to call it Three Old Ladies or, like, Camp Grindlestone or something like that. Watchers Woods seems more like a better title, a more catchy title for this kind of episode. But like I said, I was disappointed by The Watcher. Watching it now, years later as an adult, I wish they could have done more. But it's only a 30-minute episode, and they spend the first 5 minutes with the introduction scene, which this one wasn't as long as some others. There are some that are a little bit longer than others because they kind of have a story with the Midnight Society going on. This one wasn't. It was just another episode that was introducing a new member to the Midnight Society and kind of establishing that Gary and Frank both like her and the fact that she's a girl and everything, and they're making that a big deal, and she's a beautiful girl. So they're making a big deal about that. But other than that, it wasn't that long of an opening scene for the episode. And then they have those few seconds, which usually that final scene is a little bit shorter because it's just like an epilogue moment, for the episode overall. But so yeah, that's really my only things I wish they had done more with The Watcher, made him a little scarier. But it does, it is another one of those episodes where there's clearly a lesson here about to appreciate Earth, the nature around you, and respect it, and respect people. Like, and you should always be nice and kind to people and treat them with respect. Because you never know if it's going to bite you in the butt later. And, it was pretty good acting. Like, I liked... I wish I could remember her name, but the one who played Kelly, I cannot remember her name. But I like her. I like what I've seen of her, and I liked her in the 2 episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark she was in. And I've enjoyed her in the past. Whenever I see her on stuff, I wish I could see her. I wish I saw her more. I mean, of course, she might be doing voice work and stuff for, like, video games or, animated stuff that I just don't happen to watch. So, that's probably the case. But yeah, I definitely like this one better than The Shiny Red Bicycle. And this one is more fun. Although that one is, The Shiny Red Bicycle is, still a good episode, but not as in scary. Not as scary of an episode as Watchers Woods is, despite the fact that there is the disappointing aspect of they didn't do a lot with the Watcher. Just an ominous presence. So that is the tale of Watchers Woods and the Shiny Red Bicycle, and I really hope. I looked through my playlist. I still got to put the last one I did in the playlist, but I went through it to see, and I don't recall seeing those episodes being cut. I don't recall myself doing a review of those episodes in the past. It's just hard for me to remember, and sometimes I look and I feel like I'm like, I was going through the episodes on, doing a Google search and refreshing my memory of the episodes and, seeing if I feel like I've done them before. It's hard to tell because some of them I feel they seem like I vaguely have done them before. And but then I'm like, did I? And like I thought I didn't think I did The Tale of Whispering Walls, and it turns out I did. So anyway, I guess I didn't look thoroughly enough. But so if you guys liked this episode, then please give it this video. Please give it a thumbs up. Click subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos. And I hope you are enjoying your spooky season in reading some good books, possibly watching some good spooky shows and movies. And I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.